Welcome to the scurrychurchofchrist.org. The Bible says in Hosea chapter 4 and verse 6, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Please don't let this happen to you. Feel free to contact us at scurrychurchofchrist.org, where you can visit us, and any Bible question that you may have, we will do our best to answer. We are so glad you decided to visit us.
Morning. We'll turn to the book of Acts, Acts chapter 16. You know, I have people that I have Bible discussions with, and we can have good ones, and really it can get intense or not, but at the end of the day, these are the people you want to have Bible studies with, because you just be yourself, and then we could, go at it in a nice way. And I have some that it doesn't have to be a nice way, but we can, at the end of the conversation, like they say, it's all good, And I thought about this lesson. I had one person, I feel like he's a friend of mine, and we had a good discussion. I really enjoyed it. And he said something that made me think about it in general. And I thought that'd be a good lesson, but it's not related to him. When I say I have friends that we have good Bible studies, is that they know where to draw the line, or they just know we can say whatever we want to say, but it's not taken in a personal manner. And so, I mean, if you can't have Bible studies with everyone like that, it's just not possible. And so I just know who I talk to, and I appreciate who I talk to. I appreciate the level of maturity. And so it made me think about something, and I guess in general, I thought about it and started putting a lesson together. And it's nothing he did. It's something I thought about, and I think it's something that we can all learn from. But I thought about this. Look at Acts 16. I was looking at this, and very practical lesson, but realistic. In Acts 35, Paul and Silas were thrown in prison for proclaiming the truth, and then they found out that they were Roman citizens, and that was a no-no. So they broke the law because Paul had Roman citizenship. So they wanted them to escape privately. But they labeled him before that. Now remember, Paul is preaching the gospel, Paul and Silas, and so they labeled him as a troublemaker, and mainly because they lost their gain. He healed a woman who was possessed, a young lady, so there was money involved. And so from that, they labeled the Apostle Paul and Silas, and they beat them and they threw them in prison. But something happened. They made a mistake. But I want you to see they labeled him already. But something happened after they labeled him. And so what happened, this is a Roman citizen. Verse 35, now when the day came, the chief magistrate sent their policemen saying, release those men. And the jailer reported these words to Paul, saying, the chief magistrate has sent to release you. Therefore, come out. Notice this. Now go in peace. But they already labeled him. Paul said to them, they have beaten us in public. See, there it is. And it has, in order for you to beat someone in public, you have to label that particular person. They have to know why. They knew it was a public uproar. That beat us in public without trial. Men who are Romans, and have thrown us into prison. And now they are sending us away secretly. No, indeed. But let them come themselves and bring us out. The policemen reported these words to the chief magistrates, and they were afraid when they heard they were Romans. And they came and appealed to them, and when they had brought them out and kept begging them to leave the city. It's like, why did Paul do that? Well, understand why they're in this area, because they're preaching the gospel. And it hit me because why did he not just walk away privately? Because he already had the label. And that label hinders the gospel. You get it? And it didn't hit me when I started studying this. I said, let it go, Paul, let it go. He could not let it go because it's already had the label. And it was a label that was given to him because he was preaching. So he's doing a great job preaching the gospel. He heals a demon-possessed person. And many are angry because of her owner or master, whatever you want to call it, who was over her. I think she was a slave girl. Well, he lost money. Others lost money. So now something wonderful that's going on, preaching the gospel, showing the power of God, which confirms the gospel back in the first century. And so now, so here comes a label. If he doesn't say anything, then it hinders the gospel. And I get it. And it's very interesting. Labels are very strong. And I thought about that, and I'm making a general statement. It's like we do that, and I have a tendency, I could do that, you can do that, we can do that, and not thinking, but it's something we have to be aware of. I've done it before. There's a label right there. I mean, I've even generalized before. You see, and I get it. It's just like this is a public uproar, and so here's a label. These men are causing trouble. These men are doing this. These men are this. These men are that. And so now let's throw them. He said they threw us in prison without a trial. That's how serious it was. Now when he comes out, people are going to look at him differently, and it's going to hinder the gospel. So the label has to be dealt with. And I was thinking, it's like, whoa, that's interesting how that happened to Jesus. And I see why Jesus was dealing with that. And so, I looked up this word. It's like labeling is putting a word or a name on something so people know what it is. That's interesting. So Paul had a label as an apostle, but when the label changed, that's people. It's like Paul had a label before he became a Christian, and that was he was a destructor of the church. That was what he was doing, but how to identify him. And so when he became a Christian, the label changed, and so he had to prove that the label was not the same, and that's where Barnabas came in. I believe that's why I believe he traveled with Barnabas, because Barnabas was well known. If you ever want to change your label, hang with someone who can help you do that. And so now Paul he was labeled as someone differently. And it's like when he went to different places because of preaching the gospel, then he received another label. He had to deal with that label. I'm going to show you in the book of Galatians that he also had to defend his label because they tried to give him a different label. I mean, it's up and down, up and down. And then I looked up a label shapes how people identify and think about something. Changing the label can change how people perceive it positively or negatively. Change the label, change how people perceive it. That's done in business. When something's not going right, change the label. Let's go to a new brand. Let's change it. That's what it is. And I thought that was stigma is a negative mark. It's like a negative mark, shame or disgrace attached to someone because of a label. That's interesting. Then I wanted to get real technical. For example, I'm a school teacher, so for example, Oscar is labeled as a troublemaker. Because of that, others look down on him, and that's what you even you do that in the classroom, the students look at you like they're cockeyed. Oh, forgive me, Lord. But that's what it is. It's like we have to be careful with that, and it's interesting that happens. And I believe that's one of the devil's workshops to cause any type of division, because the label changes. I mean, that's. I mean, look at Jesus in John 8:48. The Jews answered and said to him, Do we not say rightly that you are a Samaritan and have a demon? That's the label they gave him. That's how they labeled. Now watch this. That's how they labeled him. That's the label they gave him. This is what he is. You are a Samaritan. What's behind that label? You are a religious heretic. You are not a pure Israelite. You are spiritually unclean. And you are an enemy of true worship. That's the label. There's something, see, when you change the label, the description changes. You understand that? That's why sometimes when you offend people, or when people have something's wrong, they change the label. You can be just wonderful until something happens. Then when the label changes, the description changes. That's what happens. Then they called him a demon, and so that's the label. Notice again, do we not say rightly that you are a Samaritan and have a demon? So now you are spiritually corrupted. You see how it works? Look at John 8:41. Notice what else they said. They said to him, we are not born of fornication. When you read the text, he's dealing with them. Jesus is dealing with them. And so they said to him, we're not born of fornication. We have one Father, God. So now and I thought about this. It's like they labeled him as an illegitimate child. Interesting. Because they were lacking religious understanding. Remember, Mary was not married when she gave birth to Jesus. That was a miraculous birth. And so, in other words, they tried to, and I believe they're trying to catch him here and trying to throw something at him here. That's just, you know how when you have nothing to say when someone is getting you and you have to come back with something. So they would come back with something and say, we are not born of fornication. I believe that's what they were saying. We have one Father. In other words, you are an illegitimate child. Jesus got him. When you read the text, he got him. Why did he not let it go? Because they labeled him, and so he turned it around because he has to look at the big picture. The big picture is the gospel saving souls, and he doesn't want to hinder the gospel. And in Luke chapter 11 and verse 13. But some of them said, listen to this. This is interesting. Instead of giving him the credit, he cast out demons by Beelzebul, the ruler of demons. So here's a label. His power came from Satan. That's interesting. So you see how the label now is can affect the gospel, because if he allows that to go, and if that's not dealt with, and then when people see his power, they'll be thinking that's from the devil. He's of the devil. He's not from God. And understand, it's very interesting to me that the power that he had confirmed that he is the Son of God, confirmed that his words were from God, confirmed that he's deity. It's like, I am God. That's a confirmation. That's the power. And so now the label changes. These people said it really gets very interesting, because he cast out demons by Beelzebul, the ruler of demons. So now change the label. So now when people see that, notice that his power is from the devil. He receives his power from the devil. That throws everything off. Just to one word. And we read over that like it's just a word. No, it's a damaging word. Notice this, and then the Bible, it's like I was thinking about this, and how we do this. And I've done it before. I think the level of maturity is that you come out of it. You come out of it. Wait a minute. That's not righteous judgment. What am I doing here? We do that. We have to catch ourselves. In Matthew, let's go to a few scriptures, but notice how Jesus, in Matthew 27, verse 8, I want to turn there. And I thought, if you look at the text, you see why they were reacting to Jesus the way they reacted toward him. And it goes back to what's deep inside the heart. It's like when someone has a deep-rooted, wonderful feeling for you, and you make a mistake, they will label you as someone that's trying, or he's trying, or she's trying her hardest. That's what's in the heart. When something there's some destruction going on the inside, the label will change. He's just weak. He should know better than that. He's not strong at all. And so it's like you realize that. And so you can have two people, one person standing here, one person standing right there, and it's based on what's inside. It's the information is going to come out differently. It's based on what's inside. If we are on the same page, our heart is right with God. It's the way that God requires us to behave. Then the label will come out the same. And but it's what's in there what comes out. I'm going to show you, because Jesus gets to the root of it. Matthew 27 and verse 18. He says, "For he knew because of envy they had handed him over." And so that's like what and see, because of envy, then you get into the books and Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and things that they said to him, did to him, and they were full of envy. And these were the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the high priests, etc. And so that's what happened. See, their insides were not correct with God. The way it's not what God required of them. Something was wrong with the inside. That's why they would say your power comes from Beelzebul. And the other person who was humble within himself or herself, the other person who was being managed by God, would look at him and look at the scriptures and say, this is from the power of God. See, it depends on what's on the inside. That's just a reality. Look at Luke chapter 11 and verse 15. Luke chapter 11 and verse 15. Luke chapter 11 and verse 15. Here we go. Watch this. But some of them said, David, you cast a demon, you cast out demons by Beelzebul, the ruler of demons. And we saw that, but see it again. But notice verse 29. Notice what was on the inside. As the crowds were increasing, he began to say, this generation is a wicked generation. See? Only a wicked generation would look at the Messiah and not identify him with scripture, etc., and say, I mean, what kind of person would say he cast out demons by Beelzebul, the ruler of demons? I mean, but he tells you what's going on the inside. He says this is a wicked generation. They're full of envy. See, that's what happens. It's you know, when I was playing sports, it's very interesting that it dawned on me one day that the most problem, and not all the time, but when I went to several teams, and it seemed like the problems that I had were the ones who had equal talent or more. And it dawned on me many years later, some of my experiences, because I didn't have a clue what was going on. And as I developed in the scriptures, I thought, oh, that was envy, and I didn't even know it. I used to wonder, why am I being treated like this when all I want to do is win? All we need to do is win. That's all I want to do. Let's win championships. And I used to go back to my room like, what's going on? What did I do? And it used to affect me. Really, and they never knew that because I couldn't understand, because I just wasn't too versed in these things. And then as my knowledge increased, basically scripturally, I look back on those who were involved in that and their position, and I see what it was. And so there were times when you go to a team. When I went to a team in California, and they were labeled, well, the label was, man, he thinks he's not running this team. I didn't want him to run a team. I just wanted to win championships. Then the humble, it's like then I recognized became friends with a lot of those who were humble, those who were not on that particular level. And I just think, I didn't see it. And so that we go through that. That's part of, and that's a general statement. That happens all the time. You've gone through that. And we fight through that. That's just what happens. It's the heart, and the heart gives a label, and the label has a definition. But when the heart changes, the label changes, and the definition changes. That's just a reality. That's what it is. I like what Matthew 12:34. Listen to this. For whatever is in your heart determines, listen to this. For whatever is in your heart determines what you say. And it's very interesting that in years later, there was even coaches that would contact me, and it wasn't all problems. I'm just mentioning it was some things. I don't want you to think it was all the problem. If that's the case, that was me. But there were people who contacted you later on, and it's like they recognize. Hey, how you doing, man? What's going on? Hey, man, I just wanted to call you and say, man, I appreciate you so-and-so. Because as they get older, the definition changes, the rhythm changes, the label changes. See, I want you to grasp that when the development of the mind matures, especially spiritually, there's an inside that changes, and what comes out of the mouth changes. That's just what happens. That's when people begin to mature. I like this one. Listen to this. I have a few more scriptures, and I'm going to bring it home. I mean it this time. I mean it. He who answers a matter beforehand, he who answers a matter before he hears it, it is folly and shame to him. Proverbs 18:13. And this warns us against forming opinions before knowing the facts. So I remember that two guys graduated from I don't know if they graduated, but they played football for the university. I knew both of them, especially one. Really nice guy. Got drafted to the Washington Redskins. It was the Redskins then. I think he was a cornerback or a free safety. And the other guy I didn't go to school with. He was before me, but I knew of him. He played for the Denver Broncos. He was on the offensive line or defensive line. That particular year, they won a Super Bowl. Washington beat Denver. I think it was that. And forgive me if I got it wrong, but I think it was Washington that beat them. And I'm hoping I'm right on that one. Because I don't remember a day when Washington won a Super Bowl, but I think one time they did. But I remember that they were back in the Coliseum and I was doing what I do, and I saw them. I didn't speak to them. But I said to myself, oh, they think they are, because they, here they go back in town and I wouldn't even speak. Matter of fact, one of the cornerback who I knew looked right at me and I just turned my head. Later on in life, I thought, why did I do that? I was jealous. Because they were drafted and I didn't get drafted. And when they went to the Coliseum, all the people were there in the Coliseum, and the whole Coliseum asked them to stand up, and people were clapping. And I was selling tickets for the game, Kentucky game. But I didn't recognize that till I got older. You see, then I matured, and I labeled them, and they were just as humble. These were nice guys. When I saw them later on, we all talked. I saw them out by the dorm. We talked. Hey, how you doing? I didn't say anything about it, but deep down inside, I was like, man, why'd I do that? I was jealous. And I gave them a label that they did not deserve. All they would do was playing football because they played it so well, they were successful. And they played so well, they were successful in the NBA, in the NFL, I'm sorry. And then and I had the audacity to not even look at them. It's jealousy. The maturity allowed me to see it. So I figured if I corrected I had to correct those things on the inside in order for things to be corrected on the outside. That's what Jesus is saying. He says, do not judge according to appearance, but judge with righteous judgment, John 7:24. When I looked at that, that's like a script. It's not personal, it's a script of judgment. We have a tendency to do that. It's like we take something, we put a personal attachment to it. But this is what, no, that's not, maybe that's not what it is. Or maybe that's what it is, but notice what he says too. He says, beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God, because many false prophets have gone out into the world. 1 John 4:1. That's a righteous judgment from scriptural information. It's not personal. And that's what happens. That's what we do. I've done it. I'm telling you, I've done it before. Didn't tell you about it. Yeah, I know her problem. Yeah, I know his problem. No, I don't. I mean, I'm gonna tell you how it's like me saying, Alyssa, she's not really pregnant, she's faking it. I mean, yeah. But as I look at her, there's evidence she is. There's evidence that she is. There's somebody said, no, she might have a pillow under there. She's not. I mean, see what I'm saying? It's like, just stick to the facts. The facts solve all the problems. So if everybody it doesn't matter with the fact, just stick to the facts. Yes, she is. See, it's my personal opinion. It's going to hinder it. Satan's going to utilize that to cause destruction. Listen to this one. Luke 6:45. A good man brings good things a good man brings good things out of the good stored up in his heart. That's interesting. An evil man brings evil things out of the evil stored up in his heart. For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. That is so true. And so it's like, that's why it's, identify your heart. I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you something that I realized in relationships. Your spouse, you don't have to be married. It could be a close relationship. Your spouse knows who you are. See, she'll tell you something and you'll tell her something. Better listen. Because in order to see it, in order for the mouth to be corrected, the correction has to be done on the inside. So sometimes I have people say that to me that were close to me. Hey man, wait a minute. No, I think you're wrong about that. Why are you coming out like that? Why do you even feel like that? And I've had people tell me this, and I didn't like it. Close friends of mine, no, that's just your ego. I've had it, and I didn't like it. And thank God I was a Christian, because it's like we'd probably been fighting before I became a Christian. I mean, college used to say, it's interesting, you're interested in everything before you're a Christian. But that's what they used to say, and I didn't like that. It's like, that's just your ego. It's like, man, that's an insult to my intelligence. But then as I matured, I was like, that was because his point was, man, or my late wife would say that, no, I don't know, and she was good at that. And I would try to say something to her about something, and she would say, and sometimes, yeah, I understand, say, no, that's you, that's just you. And I, you know how you want them to be on your side, and they're not, y'all know Chris got his head down and Sean is smiling, and Kyle is looking, and what's it, Matthew's smiling, and Albert better not say nothing. But that's true. They'll tell you, no, that's just you. That's just you. And that needed to be said, because, and then even in the church, I go back and my years preaching the gospel, and because of what she said, I get back, it's like I would remain focused, and I wouldn't say certain things because I recognized that was me. Then I would tell later on, thank you, because you know what? I realized that was me. It wasn't. It's how I perceived it. It really, when you perceive something, that don't mean that's what it is. It's something, it's like, why do I perceive that? It's something going on the inside. Now, if I have the evidence, that's what it is. But a lot of times our perception is something, like as soon as I walk onto somebody's court, and I had to challenge myself with the leaders who would think, oh, he just wants this, or he just wants to do that. And then it's like, I remember this. The first time I went to the Division I, me and a star player, I'm just going to tell you, we went at it. Because I wasn't familiar with his defense, and I got him off me, put it that way, and he came at me, and I came at him, and I did lose that one. He was quick. He was hitting, sticking and moving. I couldn't catch him. I was trying to catch him. But that's what my perception of him was wrong, and his perception of me was wrong. He labeled me, and I labeled him, and this is very interesting to me. We became best friends on that team. I mean, we were really that close. Our labels changed because we had to after they broke it up, we still had to practice. Had to go back to practice the next day. Had to go back to practice the next day. We started playing in games. We started doing this. We got to know each other. We recognized we were all wrong. And I trusted him, and he trusted me on that court. Off the court, I don't know. But it's interesting. I thought about that. It's like, man, I remember when we started, what happened, and we became really good friends. That's interesting, because the maturity, we got to know each other, and the labels changed. That's life. Let's be careful. Be careful. Because one thing leads to another. And make sure our heart is right as we continue to do the work of the Lord. And if it's right, keep it right. If we can help you this morning, please come up and stand and sing the song for the invitation.